Next, we have Big Brutus, the Midas that was just wreaking havoc in the 220 gallon. What's so cool about this is I'm growing these trees up out of the top of the water. We've got the 3 big Oscars. We've got the arowana. All right, next we go to our shrimp breeding tanks. Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Aquatics, and today I want to give you a tour of my fish room. 23 aquariums, 1,300 gallons, and every kind of aquarium setup that you can imagine. From brackish to monster fish to nano fish to breeding pairs, we've got it all here. And honestly, if you've been following the channel and you think, man, this guy's constantly adding tanks, I'm just getting started. I have a 1,500 square foot heated and cooled building with concrete floors. That is the perfect place to build out my dream fish room that I've always wanted. So these 23 tanks are awesome. I'm pumped about showing you all the changes I've made, but it's just the beginning of what we're doing here on the channel. So if you like this kind of stuff, be sure to subscribe, like the video, and let's get to it. So our first tank is some real monsters, but they're not monsters today. So this, when you look at the size of those fish, then you scroll down this aquarium, think, man, that's a monster aquarium. And to me, this always was what I called a big tank. This is 125 gallon. I now have 6 aquariums over 100 gallons. So I've got a bunch of them like this. So why do I have just a couple little fish in here? It's because of the type of fish these are. These are black, nasty cichlids. They get huge and they're vicious. They don't like tank mates. The target with that aquarium is to get a breeding pair, then pull the third one out, move it to another tank, and grow up some black nasties. I think that would be awesome if it works out that way. I'm going to grab a bag of food, and as we go through each tank, we're going to feed the fish while we're at it because I haven't fed most of the tanks today. All right, these guys, most of the time they get sinking cichlid gold. That's one of my favorite foods. I feed a lot. Man, that guy's quick. There's a very clear hierarchy in here. We got the big one, the medium size, and then the little runt looks like a different species. He's all black when the others are silver, and he does not mess around with these other two. So I'm hoping this is the breeding pair, but we're going to give it time to find out. You guys like this tank setup? It's a light aquascape. But I got this tank for, I think, $300 with the stand and the filtration and the lights and everything included. A lot of these rocks came out of the yard. Some of these bigger slate pieces came from Home Depot. All of these plants were transplanted from my shrimp tanks. So I spent almost nothing. Even the driftwood came with it. And this piece of driftwood I already had. So this aquarium was super inexpensive to set up, and you'll notice that's a trend with my tanks. And next we have the 110 gallon discus tank. This is one of my favorite aquascapes. Some people love it, some people hate it. This tank is my only acrylic, and it is badly scratched. So no matter how clean or dirty it is, it's going to look bad, and I'm showing you that with this angle here. But I love this aquascape. These plants are thriving, really doing great. I've got this aquatic clover that's spreading across the bottom, all this Vallisneria, and the discus are doing really well. They don't particularly like when I stick the camera up here. Normally, they're always out at the front of the tank, and we'll see if they come back up when I go to feed. But all these plants are thriving, tank's doing great. This is the tank that I get all my negativity on. You just put some flake food in there. They definitely prefer getting the frozen brine shrimp or frozen bloodworms. And see, they come up to the front to eat consistently. Actually, they hang out at this corner all the time. This is the corner where I feed, and I feed these guys small amounts about twice a day. And they are just always sitting here waiting for food. And people get on me about this because they say you're not supposed to have a discus tank that is natural like this, that has minimal water changes. I do a water change like once a month instead of 4 times a week. But I love this tank. And minus the glazing that makes the glass look hazy, I think it's a gorgeous tank. I love the way this driftwood lays in. It's also got a bunch of albino cories. The next tank is the biggest monsters in the fish room, even though they're not very big. Those are Dovi cichlid. Dovi get close to 3 foot long. They have teeth. They really are dominant predatory fish. And they've been really shy since I've had them, but the last week they've been coming out a lot more. I've only had them a couple weeks. But right now they're spooked because normally it's quiet in here. I don't normally talk a lot. I'm in here by myself, and I've got the camera up to the screen. So we'll give them a second to adjust. If you're not super into fish, but you've ever been fishing, or you're into fishing, a Dovi, to me, would be comparable to a largemouth bass. They've got giant mouths. They strike their prey hard. They get really big. And the only difference is they actually have fang teeth, whereas a bass doesn't. Also, back in the back there, we have a common Plecostomus. I normally never keep common plecos, but in this case, I know these guys are going to need like a 300-gallon tank minimum. And so that's why I don't mind having a common pleco in there. Generally, I don't like the common pleco because they get too big. So those guys finished off all that food. We'll give them a little bit more. To me, these type of fish, they seem like a more intelligent fish than a lot of the dither fish you get. Seems like they're really strategic in what they do. Now, if you guys follow the channel, you'll know that I bought 3 of these the same day, and they were all about the same size. And they were excellent hiders. I have these big rocks in here, and they all 3 stayed hidden, and I didn't see them for days. Like, I could barely see maybe just a tail poking out, and I'm like, are all 3 of those fish gone? What happened? And then they started coming out, but I've still only seen 2 of them. So I think one of them died probably the first day, but I never saw the body. I never saw any sign of what happened. There's that common pleco. He's about 5 to 6 inches. These Dovi are about 4 inches, but they're the fish that get so big and so aggressive, and the way their mouths are, you would be wise not to stick your hand in the tank with a full-grown one. You might end up needing stitches. That's a type of bite they reportedly have. And just working across the room, we'll go down under that stand. And here we have guppies. Nothing special, just some fancy guppies, but they're not purebred or expensive or hand-selected. They're just little guppies, and I enjoy them. Got a little planted tank for them. These small tanks that have the sponge filters, they've got soil underneath the sand. I do that on a lot of my tanks. And these are brand new, just set up. All of these plants here, this dwarf sage and the val, were taken out of the discus tank. This tank is little babies. They are hybrids that I bred between a platinum polar parrot and a convict cichlid. So these are going to be fish that really kind of nobody wants, but I still think they're cool. And they may end up getting put into one of the monster tanks. And, you know, I hate this part of it. I would never breed fish to use as food, as a strategy. But that may be what happens to some of these because the convicts breed so prolifically that you end up with so many of them and the pet stores won't buy these. Almost forgot to feed these guys. Get some in here and some in there. These are cheap aquariums from PetSmart. Just a homemade wooden stand. Our next tank is some fish that I am proud of. I am excited to have, and I think the pet stores will want to buy these. Now at this size, these fish don't look any more special than these fish. But these are green terror cichlids, which I don't know how much the pet stores value them around me, but I paid $25 a piece for their parents. And I've got 15 decent size fry in here. I'm just giving them flake food because they're still small. I really love green terror cichlids. Beautiful fish. And I can't wait to watch these go through the growth stages. I want to grow them out big before I trade them off. And I'll probably keep 3 or 4 and then trade a dozen of them off to one of the pet stores. And I should be able to get something I really want off of these babies. Now, I'd like to get another arowana, so we'll see if that's in the cards. Next, we have my African cichlid tank, which is actually a mix of African and South American cichlids. I've been through the stocking on this before, so we're not going through it all again. Got a sulfur head, a couple sand divers, a frontosa, wide variety. Here is an eye biter, also known as a compressiceps. There are 3 Jack Dempseys in here, a firemouth, a parrot. There's a dolphin nose cichlid over here. I love this tank. Let's get him some food. Say, I don't remember what that one is, but it's got some great coloration. And then down here behind that big parrot is the queen of the tank. It's a Salvini. Beautiful, beautiful fish. And they have a feeding frenzy every time. This is another one of my favorites right here. That's a Pundalaneri. That Jack Dempsey is the one I've had the longest. I've got 3 Jack Dempsey in here. Sorry about the glare. But that one has an injured mouth. And but he hangs in there. He's a trooper. All of these tanks have also bristlenose in them, and I sometimes forget to show them. This one has a big albino. There's the frontosa. I'm going to go back and show some of the different Plecostomus in some of these other tanks. I hardly ever mention it, but I have some really rare, expensive, beautiful Plecostomus, and I want to try to show as many of those as I can get to come out in this video. This is one of about 3 tanks in the fish room that never looks as nice as it actually is, just because it doesn't have good enough lighting. This tank also has a Siamese algae eater in here, and I never have algae on the front of the tank. I don't know if that's him or not. There's a Venustus down here. I honestly don't know what some of these are. There's a lemon jake. There's a couple of OB peacocks. There's an OB. So this aquarium has a royal pleco that's about 5 or 6 inches in the discus tank. And I doubt if I'm going to get him out for this. He likes to bury back there in the back, and I'll see him every once in a while. There's a super red pleco right back there that you can probably barely see. It's on the floor of the aquarium. I think there are 4 or 5 nice looking plecos in this tank. But yeah, that royal is not out at the moment. I'll see if I can catch some footage of him before the end of the video. This aquarium has several cool catfish in it. This is the Black Nasty tank. There's an Indian sun catfish. I just knew for sure they'd be behind this. There's also a vampire pleco in here. And I saw that vampire pleco the other day. I hate to bug fish just to do it. I like to let them come out when they want to come out. But we're going to look around and see if we can find these catfish. Not under there. What about... Oh, there we go. There's that Indian sun catfish. He didn't want to be bothered. Sorry, buddy. Okay, there is a golden Synodontis catfish. And that vampire pleco is probably my favorite in this tank. But he doesn't want to come out. Oh, he's down in there. Once again, you probably can't see him. But beautiful fish. He's basically black with some light yellow polka dots. Very cool little pleco. This next aquarium is a really cool community tank. I've always wanted a tank like this and just never got it set up in the past. It's 125 gallons again. The African cichlid one I just showed you a second ago was 125. This is a beautiful mix of rainbow fish. I think there's 15 clown loaches, maybe 5 bala sharks, dwarf gourami, denison barbs. I say rainbow fish like that's one thing, but there are several types of rainbow fish in there. And then once again, we've got two really cool plecos in here. And some pictus cats, but the pictus never come out. Sometimes if I put a lot of food in there, one will come out, and I just saw one. Yep, there's a pictus and there's a pictus, but there's a huge one at the back. And I actually think I was telling you guys wrong on the plecos. In the black nasty tank was, I believe it's like an Indian snowball pleco. The vampire pleco is in this tank. We also, right there, we've got a big blue phantom pleco. And I believe that vampire pleco, yeah, I can see his tail right back there. One of these days, I'll get all these guys to come out for the video. But, you know, this is another planted tank that's really thriving. We got sword plants, more sword plants. We've got Anubias. We've got all this water lettuce that I have in most of my tanks. Then there's Val all across the back. Oh, there's a little albino pleco. There's the Denison barbs, also known as Rosaline sharks. I've got, I think, 6 or 8 of those. These bala sharks are really cool. I got distracted. So we got that spiral Val back there, more sword plants, more Val, and the Sagittarius in here was carpeting, and then it's kind of died back a little bit. But overall, very cool tank. This is a type of rainbow. This is a type of rainbow. That is a type of rainbow. Lots of variety, lots of activity in here, and they're always ready to eat. Except for the pictus cats, there are no shy fish in here. I'm buying up all of the clown loaches I can get my hands on because they get really big, but it takes them like 10 years to get that big. And you can't buy them big. If you wanted to buy like a 12-inch clown loach, you could spend $500 or $1,000 on a big clown loach. And that's because someone spent a decade growing it out that big. So you're going to pay a premium to get it. And even at this size, they're about 50 bucks. So I've been buying as many as I can get my hands on to grow them out and use them as dither fish in my big tanks. Because you can't just throw them in here at 1 inch long into a big tank. Next, we've got 2 tanks up there that are blacked out. I'll get up there in a minute and turn those lights on. They're blacked out for a reason. And this is my monster tank. I've been showing it a lot lately. Got a bunch of varieties of Bisher. We've got the 3 big Oscars. We've got the arowana that's up to about 8 inches. It's a flower horn, jaguar. There's the 4th Oscar that's an albino. We've got the 2 Texas cichlids, which are actually Carpentus. We've got this Vieja. Then we've got this frog and a pile of ropefish and Bisher. They pile up here in the corner. This Indy Bisher is probably 14 inches long. There's also an Ansorgi Bisher, a Weeksy Bisher, and a whole bunch of plecos. Here's a really nice pleco right down there. That brown and black striped guy. I forgot what kind that one is, but I love him. Probably some of you followed the saga with the Oscars and adding the Oscars and are wondering who the dominant fish is now. We really don't have a hierarchy yet. There is some sparring like what you see right now, but no one has established dominance and nobody is a bully. I think I forgot to mention the jaguar when I was listing off the cichlids in here, and he's probably the King Kong of all the cichlids in this tank. Jaguar get huge, they're aggressive, they're like a little brother to a Dovi. And this jaguar was put in here when he was like 1 inch long and all the other fish were 4 inches. So he's never had a chance to be the bully because he was so much smaller. I literally thought he might get swallowed whole. And someone asked in the comments the other day what happened to my datnoid. The datnoid got put in here and I thought he was just on the edge of being big enough to make it or maybe become food. And he was only in here a few days and he just disappeared. I feed the other side over here. Then I put some food on this side after everyone else has eaten. And most of this will make its way down to the bottom feeders. I love watching the Polypterus eat. They snip the food out and just the way they find it, like they're all sight. Right there, that Ansorgi's about to gulp one. Yep, there we go. There's a Senegalis, an albino Senegalis, the ornate, the Inlasheri, Ansorgi, and the Weeksy that's always hiding. Next we have a couple of Livebearer breeding tanks. These are 10 gallons. These are koi swordtails that I got at an auction. And I'm going to be breeding those in this tank. They just got moved in here and established in an area where they can actually breed and hopefully be prolific. That's probably a little too much food for them. Beautiful little fish. You know, I love the big aggressive fish, but I could also be happy with this hobby if the only fish we could get were these Livebearers. I would still enjoy the hobby just keeping these guys. Swordtails and mollies and platies and all those types of things. Guppies. They're not as exciting maybe, but they're beautiful and they're peaceful, and you can aquascape your tank and they won't tear it up, and they're easy to breed. This is a similar kind of setup, but these are like golden lyre-tail platies, and I've got about a dozen of them. I accidentally left one guppy in there that I need to get out and get that guppy put in the guppy tank. So these Livebearers probably won't be in high demand either. Because they are color specific, I'm sure that I'll be able to trade in these platies and the swordtails. I think those swordtails are awesome. I don't know if anyone else thinks they're awesome, but I do. And so we'll see if there's a market for them. I always like it whenever I can, get the species to reproduce and then trade that in for something else that I want. And it furthers the hobby. It cuts my cost. And it just feels like an accomplishment, even though the fish did all the work. Next, we have another breeding colony here. I special ordered 5 Tropheus Dubois, and they were just tiny little specks. And they're growing out really nicely. I ordered 5 to make certain that I got a breeding pair. And as needed, we can thin them down. But these fish, when they're juveniles, they're black with white spots, and when they get bigger, they're black with a gold stripe. It's a very weird color transformation as they grow. A cool little fish that hopefully I can get a breeding pair here, and then either trade the other 3 in or move them in with my other Africans. But they're just in a 20-gallon long. Next, we have Big Brutus, the Midas that was just wreaking havoc in the 220-gallon. Trying to kill everything. And since I moved him over here, his nuchal hump has doubled in size, and he's on a hunger strike. Can't get him to eat, and he was always a pig in the other tank. All right, let's see if he's over it. There we go. Took a few days, but he's finally ready to eat again. He's been eating. He's been just waiting until it sinks to the bottom. Then he'll wait 15 minutes, and then he'll come get it. That is a gorgeous fish. But if I put him in literally any other tank that I have in this fish room, he would kill the other inhabitants. Just is what it is. So right now he's by himself in a 75-gallon. He's about a 9-inch fish that can get to 14. And this will be his home for a while. Now these 2 tanks, out of all the tanks I have the biggest problem with like a hair algae. And I can't get rid of it. So I've been turning the lights off to see if that'll kill it back a little bit. Wow, and it's only been 1 day. I just turned those lights off yesterday. There's already a huge improvement in the algae in this tank. Now, I have a second light over there that normally this corner isn't all dark like that, but that's the mother and father green terror to the babies I just showed you. And of course I cleaned those babies out hoping we can get more babies. Wow, there are tons and tons of snails in here. Didn't even remember seeing so many snails. There's hundreds and hundreds on that filter. Drop a little food in there. These guys probably aren't happy. Yesterday I took their babies, cleaned their tank, and then left the lights off. Oh, one of the babies is still in there. So I don't have 15, I have 16. I'd like to get that one moved out, but we won't do it tonight. And here's what I'm hoping is my next breeding pair. We've got a little bristlenose there, tiny little baby. You see all that green hair algae all over the place. It's all over the pots. Everything I want to be a breeding surface has that. So I'm trying to kill off that algae. Nice looking pair. When I picked this setup, I was told that this was a breeding pair. They'd been consistently laying eggs, but they were in a tank with other species of cichlids, and all the babies were getting eaten. So they'd had lots of sets of babies hatch, but none of them made it. So I've got them in here on a 40-gallon breeder by themselves, hoping that we get some blue acara eggs. Now we're going to turn the light off on this. Here we have another one of my favorite aquariums. They're kind of all my favorites. The only thing I don't like about this one is I wish I had it set up in a bigger tank. It's currently a 55-gallon. Hoping to move this up to a 125. You see that there's a mono there at the front. And then there's a archer fish at the back. Archer fish are the coolest fish in the hobby, in my mind, or one of the coolest fish. But this one's really shy, and I think it's because when he comes out, he gets bullied by the mono. There's also a couple of gobies in there. What's so cool about this is I'm growing these trees up out of the top of the water. Now, these had been kept in fresh water, even though they are a brackish tree. And a lot of them died back, and I'm hoping they grow back in. So this one's doing good, but this one's died back. And we'll just see what we get. Hopefully when I drop the food in there, you'll get to see that archer. These guys are getting vibra bites from Hikari. Seems like they really like it. And they want something that floats. And this stuff is like a slow sink. There comes the archer. Tiny little archer. I've had archers a lot in the past, but they were always the bigger archers. I've never had a little one like that. Usually they were bigger than that when I bought them. But the story with archers is they have specialized eyes that lets them see above the water and below the water at the same time. And if there's an insect above the water, they will spit at it. They have a special mouth shape that allows them to target, and a special eye that allows them to target, and they can spit at their prey and knock them down into the water to eat them. There's the archer, and then that's a night goby. There's 2 night gobies in here. So this brackish tank with the mangrove trees in it is at 1.005 salinity. These guys were really hungry. They ate I accidentally put way more than I meant to, and they ate every bit of it, so we'll add a little more. That mono is a decent sized fish. All right, next we go to our shrimp breeding tanks. And I've got 4 of these 5.5-gallon shrimp tanks. Love these little tanks. And I took, I believe, around 70 shrimp out of this tank and traded 35 each to 2 different local fish stores. And just traded them for some other fish. And that's a cool way to get new stocking. This tank is orange shrimp. You can see them there. I took, I believe, 20 of the orange shrimp and traded in. But also, see these little guys swimming everywhere? Those little ones are scuds, which is microfauna. And the scuds and the shrimp are coexisting. They have been for 6 months. And after thinning these out, there's probably only 20 of the orange shrimp left. Next tank is yellow shrimp. Here we can see there's a yellow shrimp. Yellow shrimp. There's quite a few. I took about 20 out of here. And there's still at least 30 left in there. Lots of snails. And this last tank is blue shrimp. And this one got pretty rank and fouled, and I waited too long to do maintenance on it. So this one's got that black all over the bottom, and I'm going to have to nurse it back to health. But there are blue dream shrimp in there. I just can't see any of them. And I mix up what they get. They get something different every day. Today they're getting flake food. They're not picky eaters, I don't think, but just because I don't know, I try to give them a variety. And actually, I skip feeding these tanks more than my other tanks. They don't get fed every day. Next is my father fish aquarium. And people were calling this an ugly tank, and I just don't see it. Like, it's not fancy, and I hate the blue backgrounds. I have 3 aquariums in here that I painted the background blue on, and I think they're the worst looking tanks I have. And from now on, I started painting them black. My local fish store used the blue, and I thought it was cool in there. I don't like it at home. But this tank, to me, is a great example of what a healthy aquarium is. It went 6 months without a water change, and then I just did the first water change. It's got all this plants spreading across the bottom. You can see a red shrimp right there, a sakura shrimp. There's a shrimp. There's a shrimp. It's had a really healthy shrimp population. All these plants are doing good. I think I put 5 platies in there. Now we've got a lot more than 5. I don't know how many. And then tons of these little baby platies. So the tank's thriving. Oh, there's another cherry shrimp. Beautiful little tank. Now, it's not beautiful in that it doesn't have an aquascape. So that makes it look dull and boring. And the lighting is the cheapest, worst kind of lighting. And the lighting is obscured by this water lettuce. And I see why people would call this ugly. But to me, it's a slice of nature. And it's fascinating, and I love it. And there's lots of cherry shrimp in there. I just keep seeing them. There's also several bristlenose plecos, including a longfin. Oh, more cherry shrimp up here. Those cherry shrimp are just everywhere. This aquarium is kind of like the last one in that most people would probably say it's a bit of an ugly duckling. And that's same reasons. It's got that dingy blue background. The lights are really poor on it. It needs new lights. I've got this sponge filter here that I'm going to put in another tank, and I just floated it in there so it wouldn't lose the bacteria on it. But this is the first tank that I set up to get me back in the hobby. But it's actually got really cool fish in it. It's got several angelfish. It's got like 4 or 5 species of geophagus. It's got this hecali. It's got a couple of nice severums. There's a gold spot and a green. It's got the chocolate cichlid. There is another type of severum. There's a German ram. That's a T-bar cichlid. And then it's got a Brachardi cichlid. All these tetras. If I just spent a half a day painting this black, put new lights on it, and then staggered some stones across here, you would walk up to this and say, what a beautiful tank. The way it sits right now, it's kind of dingy looking. I've already said it a couple times, but I love the fish in this tank, the mix. Like that chocolate cichlid might be my favorite fish in the whole fish room. He's just in an ugly aquarium. And really what that comes down to is, when you've got 23 tanks, it's hard to keep them all perfectly set up. This tank just needs me to spend a half a day working on it. And the water's perfectly clean and healthy. I do my water changes. You know, the plants are surviving and doing good in it. The fish are doing good. I'm not losing fish. It's just not pretty when you walk up to it. And I think the lights are the biggest part. We've also got some dwarf frogs in here. That's a Pandagara right there. We got yo-yo loaches. We've got a glass catfish right there you probably can't even see. This tank just needs some love. All right, well, I hope you enjoy the tour. If you like aquariums and fishy videos, think about subscribing. I've been putting out a video every other day. Tons of content, tons of tanks, and I've got so much more coming. So like and subscribe. I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.